What a waste of a chapter. It's pretty laughable how relevant pretty much everything in this chapter was. With this specific timing in particular, don't you just love moving from the most exciting chapters we've had in One Piece in years to unnecessary contrived plot points with minuscule at best progression for anything worth caring about? I know I do. I've harped on how irrelevant the focus of fighter numbers are for the entirety of Wano, so I almost don't even want to talk about this, but it's so laughable in this context because I always knew Oda only arbitrarily placed importance on this regardless if it makes logical sense or not, so he could stall certain plot points and basically make it so any plot points can conveniently set off at a time that he deems to give good flow to the story. And while it was annoying for certain moments like Zoro, Kid, and Killer doing nothing for like 5 chapters straight or some shit, because he wouldn't know how to realistically juggle them while having them meet up at the rooftop at the same time, and in a certain time frame that matches how he wants the rest of Onigashima to progress while the big battle is going on, it was at least whatever because the chapters at the time weren't anything special anyways, but now he's just using this plot point to break off from what we've been waiting for the entire Yonko saga because he doesn't even want to give us too much of it in a row. And while I never expected to just stay on the rooftop the entire time, I at least wanted any breakaway chapters to one, be interesting, and two, flow in a way where the climax of both plot points happens with satisfactory timing in regards to pacing and escalation. It's impossible to know how the latter will be handled, if it'll be handled well, or if there's any importance in pacing, like if he'll just make more filler chapters if he deems the timing to be off on a whim. But right now, I find it very hard to believe that this chapter was necessary in that regard, but it's pointless to go in depth on for now at least. As for the former, this chapter clearly felt like a waste of time, with bits of hype and possible intrigue sprinkled in, while definitely not handled in an exceptional way, and in a very over and done with really quickly manner. I guess I'll just start off with reiterating why fighter don't, or at least shouldn't matter. That's because numbers shouldn't mean anything when they're facing overwhelmingly strong opposition. Zoro should have just done one sideways slash and instantly killed all the gifters he fought. Kid and Killer should have mowed down fodder while not slowing down in the slightest like generals in Kingdom do, while leading a charge instead of standing in one place slowly taking them out one by one, as if having strength and speed be eons above any of these fighters doesn't matter at all. Frankie getting held down by these chumps is pretty ridiculous as well, especially when he showcased that he had the physical strength to flip Sasaki over in the same chapter. There's other moments I can dwell on, but I'd hope even the biggest One Piece stands could get the point without that being necessary. Even Nami should neg-diff very large swarms of these dudes at a time with her lightning bolts. Now with that being said, it goes without saying that focusing on Tama turning fodder on our side isn't interesting in any way. It's a cheap way of trying to hide what I talked about being Oda's reasoning for doing this. He's just giving us a half-assed attempt at telling us all the fodder focus wasn't for nothing, it had a purpose. And while some might think the plot point's at least going somewhere so it doesn't feel like they were brought up for no reason, I'd much rather it just not get focus and have that be a flaw of previous chapters instead of it not getting proper justification and feeling like we've been wasting more time. Wano's already nearing 100 chapters, like goddamn. It's also used as a cheap way to give Tama some shine. I already think she's a very bland character. I don't care for her characterization at all, so needless to say, Oda giving her her grand moment of, I want to eat rice and save Wano, didn't do anything for me, and just gifting her such an easy path on the battlefield to try to make it seem like she can contribute to the plot instead of just being a damsel feels annoying. It's easy to be brave when plot convenience makes you untouchable. What a brave soul. She's willing to join the battlefield. How inspiring. Getting info on how she got here was pretty irrelevant. Also, like who cares? Is anyone gonna complain with any actual annoyance that Tama arrived here without any explanation if we didn't get those first 2 pages? With all the conveniences and unexplained shit we've been getting, on shit we actually care to learn about. We've had this littered throughout Wano alone, a whole fucking shit ton. What's another convenience that wasn't gonna have an interesting answer or dynamic brought with it? Overall, we spent 8 pages on basically forced attempted justification on fodder mattering and matters related to that. So half the fucking chapter. Fucking sick, dude. The rest of the chapter had Frankie vs Sasaki, Nami vs Ulti, Sanji shenanigans, and the Scabbard cliffhanger. Frankie vs Sasaki was cool. It's nice to see Frankie being impressive and showcasing new abilities. I'd much rather Frankie continue to get shine and prove himself as a formidable crewmate, instead of One Piece being Luffy Piece, or just a Luffy and Zoro show. If you think about Luffy's crew EOS, Frankie being a physically imposing tank with devastating and unique abilities is a really dope addition to the crew's power dynamic. So even if I don't really care for his character, I like seeing moments like this. Frankie being able to flip Sasaki was very impressive, and him using a sword was unexpected, but I fucks with it. This is the only part of the chapter I really cared for, but sprinkling in a bit of this doesn't salvage the chapter by any means. We learned a bit about the dynamic of how the fight will be handled, but I'd much rather get a Franky dedicated chapter and not cut off from it so quickly than get this. Nami actually doing notable damage to Ulti with her lightning, was interesting and brought some needed clarity for how powerful her abilities are, but again, more focus on her versus Ulti. Even if the chapter was Nami versus Ulti and Franky versus Sasaki with the Scabbards plot point as a cliffhanger, would have definitely been more preferable. Now we get to Sanji. Man, do I not envy you Sanji fans. There's some potentially intriguing plotline build-up with this regarding Robin, but until we learn that's the case and it's actually handled well, which I'm not willing to give the benefit of the doubt to, if you are, it's whatever, this moment felt so hilariously meaningless to me. And it just makes me glad that the only person who may be able to rival how much I hate Sanji is Oda himself. It's pretty easy to win these battles when the author's on your team. Feels good, man. First of all, it's funny how Sanji beat up the fodder and could have escaped, but he just didn't for whatever reason. But more importantly, I've heard JD say he doesn't want Sanji's chivalry to be showcased, or at least not right now. That doesn't do anything for his character, but it's funny how Oda could actually, expand on Sanji's chivalry in interesting ways. Use this as an opportunity for Sanji to actually expand on his ideology with anything regarding, depth. But Sanji's ideals are so skin deep, if that's the term. I think it is, but anyways, Sanji's reasoning is like what an 8-year-old would think. Zeph was nice to me and told me to think this way, and that's all there is to it. Imagine having your mentor be so retarded he unironically tells you, ever since the age of dinosaurs, men were chivalrous, so be chivalrous, while expecting that to have some profound impact on you. It's just so boring to have the reasoning be he cares for Zeph, so fuck any introspection. I don't need to think about this at all. Regardless of how monumental Zeph's selflessness was, you'd think Sanji would be a human being and, think about things he holds deep passion for, even if just to further justify Zeph's point of view. Any type of actual justification would be nice, but nah. He's just gonna have some of the worst moments in the series because of this, and have no depth to his thought process. Sanji being so headstrong in his ideals isn't inspiring when he actually cares so little that he never even thinks about why he or someone should think so strongly about this. I guess he just went 10 years of his life without ever giving any thought into one of his most character-defining subjects he could possibly think about. Seems legit. I find it pretty insane to enjoy Sanji's character when it's mostly bland repetition. But chivalry is admirable and he's cool and loyal, I guess. Now we end off with the cliffhanger. I really expected something like this, assuming it's Hiyori, since if Tama joins, why not Hiyori too? She's going to play some role in all this. Not sure how this is going to go, so I'll reserve judgment on this plot point, on the timing of it and importance of it for now. I'll just say it doesn't really leave me excited, but there was a tiny bit of intrigue, I guess. Overall, I just really want to move forward for this, and getting a break right after this was definitely not ideal. But hey, that just means another week of the last relevant talking point being Zoro greatness, so it ain't all bad. I know that got the Zoro down players steaming, and it warms my heart to know that's the case. Y'all like, please Oda, Zoro really just a fraud and Enma's doing all the work, right? Giving him these insane feats and hype is just misdirection. It's all Enma, and our crackhead theories about him being low diff material for Dofi just cause Sanji was is still true, right? This is the beginning of the end for the Zoro hype, right, Oda-san? And all Oda got to say to y'all comes straight from the words of the great Uncle Ruckus. Nah, nigga, it's just the tip of the iceberg.